cast video talking to you guys about that ugly loss once again, 8 in a row for the Bears losing against the Vikings in week 15. We'll kind of dive into that a little bit for you guys. And also we're going to preview next week for you guys as the Bears take on the Lions at Soldier Field on their home turf, actually on their own grass or turf, whatever you call it. But yeah, so my name's Tyler. I'm joined alongside
Daniel. How we doing?
I'm doing great, man. How about you,
You
dude?
know, we got to keep the spirits up because, Tyler, unfortunately, we might have one of the worst teams in the league and one of the worst teams historically as the Bears.
Man.
But it's not that bad. It's not that bad, right?
It's not that bad. It isn't.
Keep smiles, everyone. Let's just be positive on this show today because obviously it's been 8 weeks of talking trash. So just talking straight trash of what we are experiencing here as Bear fans. But you know what? We are here, all of us together. No one's alone on this. Trust me, everyone can have colliding opinions on what the Bears should do to fix management and stuff like that, and teams and players and jobs. But at the end of the day, we're all collectively a Bears fan, and we all love watching bad football. What can we say? Bad football it's my favorite type of football to watch.
It's an ugly team right now, man. Especially on Monday Night Football. At least there's another game on at the same time, so you know what I mean. We kind of flipped to that other game, the Falcons and the. Who was it? I forgot who they played. It was a bad team, and they lost.
And Raiders.
That's who it was. You were banking on that for fantasy.
Yes, because me and you were talking because I had. Yeah, it was a tight game, playoff game, obviously. So yeah. But I mean, this game was pretty bad. We don't want to go through all the things because if we went through every single bad thing that happened in all 8 games, I don't know anyone to watch our show, so we gotta keep it quick. So obviously there was 2 bad things. I think there was a sack fumble that Caleb got, and there was another Kramer goal line brain fart that happened where he didn't advance himself to the ref, saying that he was eligible to be on the offensive side of the ball and not on the offensive line. So that was a brain fart. DeAndre Swift scored a touchdown. It ended up getting called back. 5-yard penalty, another 5-yard penalty after that, and then it ended up just costing us 4 points because all we got was a field goal. So again, this game was pretty darn ugly. There was scoreless at halftime. This is the 3rd game straight that we have been scoreless at halftime. But it wouldn't look so lopsided with the score being 30-12, Vikings winning at home. The yard totals are kind of pretty close. I mean, Vikings yard totals,
very, very similar.
452 yards for the Vikings, and the Bears had 398. And at halftime, it looked pretty similar as well. I think the 2 things that happened is that Bears lost 2 very key 4th and 1s. That we both tried to rush with DeAndre Swift, and I think we missed Roschon really, really badly. So, again, the score looks lopsided, but yet the yards look pretty good, and that can kind of give you an idea on how the Bears' offense wasn't actually as horrible. It wasn't as bad as it was the week prior.
Sure,
but it definitely didn't. Again, the game was lost after the first quarter. It was it was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was. I caught most of that game. I think I was coming home from work that day or something like that on Monday. I caught most of the game. It was another ugly Bears loss. Like we've said, unfortunately, it's 8 in a row for the Bears right now. This team is just, in a bad slump. They, obviously it was I think it was the day before on Sunday they were officially ruled out of playoffs. Well, I think 5 weeks ago they were ruled out of playoffs when kind of everything, when the head coach got fired and stuff like that. Like we kind of talked about before, how many teams where they fire their head coach in the middle of the season end up making playoffs that year? It's not pretty slim to none. The Saints fired their head coach. The Colts were rumored to fire their head coach, but they didn't. They're on like the playoff, like kind of, the edge right now, but the Bears did fire their head coach. Looking ugly right now. The team just looks defeated at this moment, but hate to say there's always next year, but that's a kind of a quote with this Bears is like, there's always next year. And
always next year.
Yeah. But this guy's saying, man, at least we're not the New York Jets. That's all I got to say.
At least we're not the Giants, right? At least we're not the Jaguars. Those are a team that obviously they have position players and they had some sort of chemistry, but they are different than the Bears because the Bears have another year to kind of build and we're not taking a step back like it seems like a majority of teams are doing. So again, 4 wins. 1 win more than Carolina, if that's something that everyone cares about that's watching. I mean, that's something that I definitely cared about heading into the season. I just want to make sure that our team is still advancing over the teams that we're trying to leave behind. But, I mean, in this game, it's very similar to the way every other game's going, but this game felt, again, a little bit different. It seems lopsided, but it wasn't entirely. The Bears led the game in possessions. We led the game in time of possession, and we led the game in total plays, but we still lost by 18. And I think that is just finishing. Again, 2 possessions in some close to the red zone where we, didn't convert a 4th and 1. Those could have been 2 scores there, and they could have changed the game just slightly. And we also missed another. Again, we're down by so many points that we're just constantly trying to go for 2-point conversions, and the Bears are not that good at 2-point conversions when it comes to the season specifically. So, again, 3 straight games shutout at halftime. That's probably the key stat that I wanted to go over in this game. And here we go. I mean, this next part kind of sucks. We're talking about the historic losing streaks, and I'm talking historic because these last 5 seasons for the Chicago Bears have been historic because we've had more than a 4-game losing streak in each of those seasons.
No, I've been losing seasons pretty much. Yeah, they've been losing seasons.
So 2020, there was a 6-game losing streak. 2021, there was a 5-game. 2022, which was the 3-win Bears, that was a 10-game losing streak. 2023, with Justin Fields last season, there was a 4-game winning streak. We went 7-10 that year. And then 2024, this season, 8-game losing streak and counting. There was a pretty nice quote here by Cole Kmet, because obviously he has been the longest tenured Bear on this offense. Right. And everyone's kind of asking him, like, hey, like, you've been through several different quarterbacks. You've played several different positions on this offense here. What do you think of the whole idea? And here's a quote here. He said, I mean, overall, yeah, this process has been tough. It takes a toll on you mentally. You definitely question things about yourself. You've got to fight those things, but it's a hard deal for sure. I just keep the mindset that this type of adversity will only make me stronger going forward. Think about how many times he's probably had to say that.
Yeah.
We're talking 5 seasons of losing of a pretty big losing record. So I hope I mean, he's definitely had the biggest upset, I think, of the season and in terms of production. So we'll see. I'm just hoping that he's still staying positive and his mindset isn't, it might be my time's up over here in Chicago because they're not utilizing me as well. But
the thing you got to think about this too, man. Like, it's not just Cole Kmet. I was working at the Chicago Sports Network yesterday. They did their football podcast, so mainly Bears, talking about other things going on, that Jets, Madden kind of thing going on right now. They discussed all that, but David Haw did say yesterday, there's one player on the Bears who has not had a winning season. You know who that player is? Do you know who it is? No. He was not always with the Bears. It's DJ Moore. DJ Moore has been with a losing team every year of his career. So he's been, ever since he was in Carolina. Obviously, they haven't not done well in a very long time since Cam Newton was a part of the team when they went to the Super Bowl in, I believe, 2015. But they are just, DJ Moore, that's why it just looks like he's always upset. He has not been part of a winning season in his career so far.
That explains a lot, actually.
Yeah, he is technically, it's weird. When you think about veteran players, you think about them being in the league for 10 plus years, veteran meaning, I hate to say the word old, but a lot of people say veteran. They've been in the league for a while, but what's the definition of that? But DJ Moore is considered a veteran at this point. That's but he has not been a part of a winning organization yet. And, he comes to the Bears, signs that huge contract, and now they're in another losing season. That's why he always looks upset, man. It just sucks to see, but DJ Moore deserves better. This Bears team deserves better, and especially the fans deserve better, man. We deserve better. We've been watching losing Bears football since basically 2018 when we won the NFC North, which was great year for us, the all-time high for the Bears in my lifetime. I don't remember, the Super Bowl as a kid and stuff like that, but it just, looking at Cole Kmet, signing that contract, he only has like 400 yards on the season, man, or something like that. If I recall correctly, I saw the stat yesterday. He barely has any yards this season. He has 3 touchdowns. Some of these other wide receivers like DJ Moore only have like 3 touchdowns as well. It's just it's a slump year for the Bears, and they just gotta, unfortunately, this year's just got to go by. This year's got to pass.
That's what people are saying.
The off season is huge. Yeah. The off season, I hate to say it's like another year, man, where we tell you the off season is huge for the Bears because we said this last year, said this the year before when we had the number 1 pick, obviously last year drafting Caleb, but it is, unfortunately I've heard rumors we're going to be cutting Ryan Bates or something like that, cutting another, I forgot, there's a few other players we might cut. We might have upwards of $90 million in the off season to play around with in cap space. If I saw this tweet yesterday. And then, right now we're saying at the number 9 pick in the draft. So it just depends on what's going to happen with the Bears in the offseason.
Yeah.
But, kind of steering clear with the draft. I know we're talking about, the Vikings right now, but it's just, it sucks right now. 8 games in a row where we've been sitting here talking, oh, they're going to be, great this season, or they might win this game. They need the win, and they lost, like the Niners game the week before. But sorry to ramble on, man. But that's
I get it. It's one thing I will say about the Bears is that when the offseason does hit with the Poles management, there has been change. I mean, there's not enough on the offensive line or the defensive line, but gosh, they bring in a lot of new players. They bring a lot of good players into the practice squad. Usually by the time preseason rolls over, it does feel like a different vibe. So I will say this offseason is an important one. It might have not been as important as it was last year, but it's true. Like what you're saying, it's like that's all we can look forward to. And it's to keep tempers low, but this is still our team. So to be excited is perfectly understandable. I'm very excited. And this year I won't call it a complete bust. I think this week I've been chatting with a lot of people on Twitter because there's a lot of hate on Caleb going around, and I like to stick up for my guy. So I'll always, put in some stats in there just because, we're podcasters. So we got the stats on deck. And so every time I hear someone with a pretty bad take, I'll always just put down the stats and say, well, if this guy's a bust, then tell me why he's the best throwing quarterback in the NFL because of his like situational football and his skills and the idea of not throwing too many interceptions. And he has just as many touchdowns as the other rookie QBs. Like, and he's also playing on a 4-win team. Like, it's pretty interesting on that point. So we could stay excited, but for now, Bears are 4-10, and there's 3 games left. Tyler, we have to sit through these last 3 games.
We do. Yeah.
They're pretty tough. They're pretty tough games. I think I'm really excited for obviously the game that you'll be at in the last week 18. That's going to be in Green Bay, but also the Seattle game. I think it's gonna be a fun game because that's another team that it could be a pretty even matchup. Seattle's also playing for playoff hope, so that could be one of those games that we could just be a little bit of a playoff killer.
Seattle has a tough game this week. I've got who they play. They were discussing it yesterday, but
Minnesota this week.
Minnesota, it's a tough game for them. Minnesota with 11 wins or 12 wins now. That's gonna be a tough game for Seattle. Every win matters for them. I think they have to win out in order to make playoffs. So if they do win this week, look to them to be very hungry against the Bears and try to get that that win against the Bears. But obviously, even if most of these teams are in or out or something, it looks like this season a lot of these teams still are going for wins, even though it's the Raiders and the Giants, with the number 1 pick right now, seeing who's going to be the number 1 pick. But like you said, 3 games left in the season with the Bears. Then we'll look over to the offseason. Obviously after the playoffs and the Super Bowl and stuff, we'll look into the what the Bears can kind of do in the offseason. Unfortunately, right now we are ranked as the 25th overall team in the NFL right now, which is. It makes sense.
It's very similar to last year. It's very, very close to last year.
Last year, I
don't think we made it past like 22nd.
Yeah. You can just tell that it's the organization that is, right now, the organization and the surrounding some of the players around him, offensive line, are kind of failing these quarterbacks right now. We saw Justin Fields thrive in the first 4 weeks, but Caleb has been, he hasn't thrown an interception. He had a few weird fumbles that happened to him, but
it's okay. Rookie mistakes, I'd call it.
Rookie mistakes. He's rookie, and obviously pointing fingers at other rookie quarterbacks. Bo Nix played decently well yesterday. He did have, I think, maybe an interception, if I recall correctly, an interception or whatever. But Jane Daniels has been a little sliding down a little bit. But I know a lot of people. I was talking to was it David Haw and Clay Harbor yesterday for the Chicago Sports Network, and they still said after Bo Nix and everything like that, they will take 5 years of Caleb Williams over 5 years of Bo Nix.
Yeah, I think I would too.
You just think that it's just a tough situation
it's right now. Adversity, right? In his rookie season, he's following so much adversity, so you can kind of tell who's going to be the more prepared quarterback when it comes to times of winning. And here's the other thing. I mean, think about this: the Bears are 4-10 with only the 9th pick projection. So think about how many other bad teams there are this season.
Exactly.
There's the fact that there's 8 other teams that have also 4 wins or less. And that puts us in the 9th spot, the same pick we had last year when we had 7 wins. So whether we win out these last 3 games, I don't think it makes that much of a difference. I'd love to see another win on there in the win column. Tyler and I both had projected 6 wins. I think at the 10-week point, we projected them to have 6 wins. And they're still cruising at 4. But if they finish with 4 or finish with 6, it's not really that big of a deal to me. It's all about Caleb. What can Thomas Brown do to Caleb to unlock him these last few weeks? And to see the offense around. Like, this is also time for us to get to see if Keenan's going to be the guy for us, if he deserves the deal, or to see what Rome's ceiling could be these last few weeks, right? I think that's a very important part. Or even DeAndre Swift, like
it is.
That's what's important. But in this Vikings game, there wasn't too many bad stats. I think we definitely kind of pushed a little bit in terms of production. I think Caleb Williams did pretty well production-wise, but there wasn't a lot of big plays. There wasn't a lot of high completions, but Caleb Williams against the Vikings here, he went 18 for 31 for 191 yards. Again, I think he had somewhere under 100 by halftime, so the second half is definitely a little bit more important to him. He got 1 touchdown and a 58.1% completion percentage. He got 4 rushes for only 3 yards. He got sacked twice, which is good. 2 sacks, it's a lot less than it was previously. Bad. He still leads the league, but 2 sacks a game I'll take over the 4 to 7 that he usually
7,
gets.
Yeah, he had that one, yeah.
Yeah, and then he did have another costly fumble this game. That was not his fault. His blind spot was completely lost by Kieran, who got his first career start this game. Third-round rookie out of Yale, who's a Hinsdale native, a Chicago native. He had a pretty horrible game. He had one of the worst grades for an offensive lineman in their debut in Bears history. So it was pretty bad. I don't think he definitely had more bad snaps than good snaps. Yeah. Which kind of gives you an idea as to why the game went so bad. He's playing his blind side, Caleb's blind side. So that happened. That wasn't too good. DeAndre Swift, though, he tried to get him the ball. As much as he could. 19 rushes for 79 yards and then 1 catch for 10 yards. It's not incredible. I mean, it's closer to what we saw at the beginning of the season, right before he hit his 5-game stretch where he had like 100 yards, right? But another bust of a game here for Cole Kmet. 1 catch for 14 yards. Again, he didn't get targeted that often, so it's not really necessarily the fault of the offense. It's more so the fault of the play calling. He's a premier player, but he's not getting these last few weeks. I think that season for him is also a big off season for him to try to get back at, especially since he's signed onto the team for a few more years. DJ Moore, 8 for 8, 100% on his catches here for only 46 yards. They did utilize him as a runner a little bit more, 3 rushes for 28 yards. I think that's the most rushes he's gotten in a game.
The runs he did have.
He played really well.
He's very shifty, so obviously sometimes those run plays work really well if it's man coverage, but if it's zone coverage, they don't work as well. So he did. It was really shifty on his part, and they did do pretty well.
He looked good, and it was because of injuries, right? DeAndre Swift had a groin injury, but he ended up playing, and no Roshan, so they gave him a couple runs. And this, I think I read that this was the most rushes he's gotten in a game. He's never gotten more than 2, and he got 3 rushes for 28 yards. So imagine him on 10 carries, right? I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but him on 10 carries can hit 100 yards quite easily. And then what about Keenan Allen here, huh?
Keenan Allen, good game for him. It was a good game for him.
It's crazy.
So obviously we've seen over the season with Caleb that he needed somebody who'll be a safety blanket, and that's going to be Keenan Allen this year, just because he's been a veteran in the league and he's great at catching passes. He did 13 targets. He had 6 catches for 82 yards, and a touchdown with that one as well. So Keenan had a really good game. Whenever Caleb needed to throw the ball and find somebody, Keenan was there. And Roma Dunze, on the other hand, only had 2 catches for 39 yards. One of them was a decent catch. It was down the field. So 7 targets. He did have a really nice catch. And we'll talk about it when we get to the positives and negatives of the game. But the 6 for 13 and the 2 for 7 and then DJ being 8 for 8 kind of tells you also another thing about this game. I think there was a lot of blame on the receivers that we could put on there. But let's talk about the defense. Defense wasn't ugly. It wasn't that ugly. I think for Thomas Brown's coaching, starts, this is probably the best the defense has played. There's a bit of, speculation again that's just like these the highest point totals that the Bears have given up this season, the highest yardage totals and the point totals have been since we fired Eberflus, have been these last 4 games. So that's like another thing to think about. Like this defense is playing the worst of this entire season since Eberflus has gone. It's kind of like what happened with the Jets when they fired Robert Saleh. Their defense just tanked completely because, Eberflus was that defensive-minded coach that did get fired off the team. So it does make sense to me why the defense has fell off a little bit.
So the leading tackler here for this game was, and this is, I think, another thing that's been upsetting me is that the leading tackler is only like 6 to 5 tackles a game. Whereas I remember the days last season where like Edmonds was getting 12,
13. That was at the beginning of the season.
So Jonathan Owens, a safety, was getting the leading tackler of the game for 6 tackles. TJ Edwards got a sack. Chris Williams got a sack. Chris Williams has become a name that we should kind of start memorizing because this is, I believe, his 4th sack of the season. So he's definitely on the rise, and he's somewhat filling the position that Andrew Billings was since he's out. Tyreek Stevenson got a nice interception this game. I think Tyreek is definitely playing back to his potential, and he's definitely on a list for me of just like he's one of those cornerbacks you don't really want to mess around with. So I think he's good in his position, but. again, the defense let up 30 points. This is the third straight week where they let up 30 or more. And it's just, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But
it is.
Special teams, though. I mean, this is probably maybe his best game of the season, I'd say. It's not entirely the greatest, but he did pretty well. Torrey Taylor.
Yeah, 3 punts. 3 punts for him. So, yeah, averaging around 47 yards. So, good for Torrey Taylor. 2 inside the 20. So, I kind of think about the whole Torrey Taylor thing, with Caleb, that whole interchange, with texting after they got drafted and stuff like that. Probably shouldn't have happened. It seemed like it was like, karma, coming his way, when he said, oh, you probably won't punt that much. When, I don't know if you saw the stat on Twitter, Torrey Taylor has more punt yards than Caleb Williams has passing yards, which is not good. So, but
not good, but that's all right.
It's his rookie season. It's all right.
Both rookie seasons, and that doesn't mean that next year that might happen next year. Who knows? But
yeah, kind of like, steering away from that, kind of just wrapping up this game. Let's we always kind of, look into the positives and negatives with, both the, what happens with the game. Obviously there's always going to be a positive, even though it could be like, punting yards or, whatever. There's going to be negatives as well. So let's go right into the positives, man. Kind of talking about one of the positives, after halftime as well, kind of when they need to get the stop, the defense did perform pretty well. Obviously, they give up 30 points though, but the Vikings could have, just the way the Bears have been playing, they could have put up 45 on them. You never know just how everything was kind of going. Jalen Johnson did lock down Justin Jefferson once again, which was really good on Jalen Johnson's part. I think I forgot how many yards he had. I think it was only like 40 yards.
He had 1 catch for 7 yards and a touchdown. That's what he got.
He only had 1 catch.
Yeah, which is good. It's exactly the same thing he got last game. He caught a touchdown, but Jalen Johnson Island, right?
So still there. Yeah, they're never targeting, the player that Jalen Johnson is, covering or whatever. So, another thing, the run game was mediocre at best, I'd say. DeAndre Swift having 80 yards rushing, and then 10 more yards on the receiving end. It did look pretty well. Should look a little better, though. I know no Roshan does hurt that a little bit when DeAndre Swift has to do a bulk of the, carries. Travis Homer did come in a little bit, but we've never seen him at all this season. So, and then, DJ Moore did get 24% of the target share this game. So, DJ Moore getting the ball a lot. I know Keenan Allen got the ball a lot more than DJ did that, but kind of looking at both things because we don't know. We'll kind of talk about that in a few weeks when we talk about what the Bears are going to do in the offseason. We don't know if we don't know if Keenan's going to stick around next season.
Yeah.
If it's a team, I was just talking to David Hall yesterday. If it's a team-friendly contract for the Bears, somewhere between 10 to 15 million a year, they might sign Keenan Allen. But if Keenan Allen is done with this Bears, team after 1 year, he might leave. So
we'll talk about that. Yeah, we're going to go over some players on expiring contracts this upcoming season. And we're just going to go do a little yay nay on who we think we should keep or what might be a maybe.
Yeah,
right?
We'll get it with the Bear down.
But that was a pretty important thing for me, and definitely a positive I'd agree with was. This isn't necessarily relative to just the game, but it's the way that DJ Moore has been playing this season. DJ Moore had that, like you mentioned, the 24% target share this season, which is 12% less than he had last year with Justin Fields. But that is him being the wide receiver 1 in an offense with no wide receiver 2 or 3, unless you count Darnell Mooney. But Darnell Mooney obviously is a little bit of a different story compared to this season where they have a pretty good offensive, pedigree. Like there's a lot of players out there. So I think that's impressive to me that DJ Moore again caught 8 of 8 passes this game on a 24% target share. That's great. There's a lot of the wide receiver ones that you see in the league have somewhere near the 36% that DJ Moore had last season, but it just, spreading the ball around a little bit. And DJ Moore's still up there in the high percentage-wise. But what about some bad things here? Some negatives from the game, eh?
There's a lot of bad things, man, about this team right now. But trying to stay a little positive, about, been bashing this team this whole entire podcast. But, 8 straight losses. It's hard to, be a Bears fan and, not bash the team. But Caleb's, field vision was a little poor this game. There was one of the tweets on Twitter was, showing a picture of Justin Fields last year with a wide open man in the middle of the field. And then there's another one where Caleb had the wide open man in the middle of the field. It sucks, but sometimes it happens. Caleb did, after that kind of happened, he did perform a little well in the next few drives. He was getting, some decent passes off, and, the commentators were talking about how the passes were getting a little bit better. So the field vision looking a little rough right now for Caleb in the last, it just seems like, the 7 straight losses before this game was really getting to him mentally, and now 8 straight. He even said, like, this is unacceptable, and I just don't know what to, kind of do about this. But offensive line injuries have been piling up for the Bears, and, with no depth on the offensive line, it's going to stack. Karan Amagaji did not perform very well. He let off that, that crazy rush. I forgot who it was, maybe Danielle Hunter or something. I forgot who it was, but it's a crazy sack on Caleb. He's lucky he did not get hurt. That was a hard hit, man.
It was rough. It was rough for sure.
4th down play calling looking bad right now for the Bears. Even 3rd downs have been really bad for the Bears. I think they were like 0 for 7 in the first half on 3rd down. And receiver drops, they have 6 drop passes. There were some really bad drop passes. One was from Keenan. I forgot another one. I think was from Rome, if I recall correctly.
Rome in the end zone was the big one that I was thinking about. Where it was a bit zipped. Right? Caleb put some energy on that, but I think Rome should have expected that pass. And it's not that it would have changed the game a little bit, but it definitely would have a little bit more positives on our end. I would have loved to see Caleb hit over 200 yards this game, maybe 2 touchdowns. I think he's just playing a little bit too slow for a late game, right? In garbage time play. So. There's majority negatives, but I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. 3 games left, and hopefully there's going to be one of these games where we can kind of bring a couple more positives here and there. The big positive is just that Caleb is a Chicago Bear, and that he is he's not playing really poorly. He's doing just fine. He's doing just fine. But to prove to you that he's doing just fine, to prove to you that he's doing really well as actually a Bears quarterback historically, we're going to compare you guys Justin's year 3 last season compared to Caleb's rookie season this year. And so, Tyler, how about this? I'll give you Williams, right? So you will be Williams, and you could say the Williams stats, and I'll go ahead and be Fields. FYI here, 2023, Justin Fields did only play 13 games. He did miss 4 of those games with injury. Right. And Caleb Williams has only played 14 games with 3 games left on the slate. So it's somewhat even here. We can somewhat compare it here, but this is just an idea for all the people who are still Justin Fields fans, because one of these is going to shock you. One of these stats is somewhat going to shock you because it's not entirely different, but it gives you an idea as to why Justin was so highly regarded being a rushing quarterback, right? So here we go. Fields completions here for 227 completions out of 370 attempts. What about Williams? What do Williams have here?
Caleb right now through 15 games is currently at 288 passing and then he threw 465. So that would make it. So, Fields on your side would be 61.4.
Did he play 14 games or no? How many games I think it's 14 games because this is week 16, 1 bye. So that'd be 14 games, right?
Oh, 14. Yeah, that's right. That's right. We did have the bye. Yeah.
I was trying to do the research on my own too. I get confused. Yeah, Williams gets the advance there. So Todd gets a cookie.
Yep.
That's a lot better. 288
Can it be a chocolate chip cookie?
Yeah, that's 100 more attempts versus 60 more completions, which is pretty good when it comes to completion percentage. But let's talk about that. So Justin Fields through 13 games, 61.4% completions percentage.
And Caleb Williams at 61.9. So there you go. That's another cookie for me. I'll give me another cookie.
Another cookie for Todd. And that's not entirely a different, right? 0.5 isn't crazy. Very it's not crazy, but it's also an idea when we get to the yardage, right? So now Justin Fields throwing yardage, 2,562 yards.
Now, Caleb Williams, on the other hand, had 2,937 yards. Give me another cookie from my basket. Let's go.
Take the cookie. Take the cookie.
Let's go.
So that's over 400 more yards, and that's pretty fantastic, I'd say. Yeah. I think 400 yards is 1 extra amazing game or 2 extra mediocre games. So I'm taking those 400 yards extra, especially with the completion percentage being so close. Justin Fields, 16 touchdowns throwing.
And Caleb Williams currently right now has 17 touchdowns throwing.
17 touchdowns throwing. Yeah, so I didn't include Justin Fields did get, I believe he had 4 rushing touchdowns last season through his legs. So we could amount that to 20 total touchdowns, but I think with a full season under his belt, I think Caleb Williams could reach that point as well. But now we get to the really rough part, right? This is where the ball security. Justin Fields in 2023, 9 interceptions and 10 fumbles.
Yeah, and Caleb right now, 5 interceptions with 6 fumbles right now for Caleb. So the interception number is very low. Fumbles are decently low as well. Fields was a little more hesitant with the ball. So that's okay right now. But the rushing yards, on the other hand, when we get into the rushing yards, Fields is more of a runner. We all know that.
Oh yeah.
So what Fields have?
It's crazy to look at like Caleb's being a rookie and having that kind of ball security. That's awesome. Yeah. So Justin Fields in 2023, he had 657 rush yards, which was less than the year he had in 2022. 2022, he broke the record, I think it was, he had like over 1,000 rushing yards. Mm-hmm. He made it to like second all time for QB rushing. What did Caleb Williams have here?
What did Caleb Williams have? I don't know what Caleb Williams had. Just joking. Caleb Williams currently has 408 rushing yards on the season.
408 rushing yards, which seems like a huge difference, right? 250 yards is a big difference.
Two different quarterbacks, though. That's all you got to say.
Yeah, we're talking about a quarterback that doesn't have design plays.
Yeah.
And he
had one design play in that game. I realized against the Vikings. I saw it. It was kind of a flop. I think he had 1 yard on the rush with that.
Yeah, because you can see it, too. Like, I think if you're watching from the stands, you can tell when it's a fake, like, pass to a running back and he's just going to take it. It's pretty easy to tell because I think his body language. But okay, Justin Fields in 2023, we won 7 games. We won 7 games with this type of quarterback play.
And the Bears right now currently have 4 wins. Obviously, they're 4 wins. Yeah,
and it's I think the reason I added the wins in there is just kind of give you an idea on. The Bears were a different identity last season. Exactly. Definitely better defensively. Mm-hmm. The offense was struggling. The offense was nowhere near as prominent as it was a couple weeks that we saw this season with Caleb, right? I'm always thinking about that Jaguars game. That's oh my gosh, Caleb Williams to the max, to the moon. Like that's an incredible game from him. And I keep thinking about that. I think Justin had maybe 2 games of that pedigree. Caleb Williams, I would probably say he's had about 4, even counting losses. But there's the comparison, and I'd like to think it's not even much of a comparison because Justin Fields, unfortunately, is not playing football for any football team at the moment, and he is out this week, so he is injured. But Williams is the guy, whether you like it or not, and those stats can show you. Yes, he's played 1 more game. Yes, he has less rushes. Yes, his completion percentage is just as equal as Fields, but it's the throwing, it's the offense, right? It's not offense with your legs, it's offense with your arm. That's important to me. So.
You're right. Yeah. It's good comparisons, man. I love this section where you kind of, talk about quarterback last year, quarterback this year. Obviously, Williams is more of a passing quarterback. Fields was more of a running quarterback. We saw that with the rushing numbers, but he's going to be our quarterback for the future, man. And he's locked in. He's, with us, and I'm excited with Caleb. It's just a rough year with this Bears team. Firing the head coach, all this different change going on. It's just a rough year right now. So we'll kind of. We'll just have to go on, man. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. We're just gonna have to go on with 4 wins right now. We'll see if we tag on another, but we'll just have to go on with 4 wins. But steering away from Justin Fields comparison with the Caleb Williams, let's go right into the Week 16 preview, which is going to be an interesting game for the Bears because we are playing a very tough opponent, which we actually put up a decent game against them on Thanksgiving, which was the Detroit Lions. Lions currently right now are 12-2. Bears right now kind of on the polar opposite spectrum, 4-10. So it's gonna be a Soldier Field game where we got a home game for the Bears. Sunday, December 22nd at noon. So we have the noon game, which is going to be really exciting.
Back to a noon game, back to original time. It feels like all these other games with Christmas and Thanksgiving and all this stuff, like games have been at weird times and it just felt different, But this back to the original part of being a Bears fan. Soldier Field.
It's a regular scheduled program.
Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Injuries. Oh my gosh. I'm looking at this injury list here, dude. Holy crap.
Yeah. There's a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball. We won't get into like everybody right now, but kind of some of the injuries we got, Brian Branch, who's a big key piece to this defense.
He's the
one
that's like head first in people's knees. So I'd love for him to not play this game.
Limited participation. That was yesterday. Lions did not have their injury report yet come out as of now. I'm just going to double check, make sure nothing came out. I see Ravens stuff. I see Deontay Johnson just got waived off the team. I don't know if you just saw that.
He did? Oh my God.
He just got waived off the team. So he had nothing with that team, but kind of steering away from that. But limited participation today. Tackle Taylor Decker, veteran rest today, full participation. He will play now off what's called Graham Glasnow, knee injury, did not participate yesterday. I'm sorry, I said today with the last guy, but yesterday. David Montgomery, knee, did not participate. There's rumors he might be out for the season. He might just be rested a few weeks. His meniscus looks like he might take the surgery in the offseason or whatever. I don't know what's going to happen with him. But center Frank Ragnow, veteran rest, did not participate. DJ Reader, defensive lineman, veteran rest. He had full participation. Linebacker Jalen Reeves-Maben, who's a really good player, limited participation. Now a few more players that are full participation. We'll go over Amon-Ra St. Brown, Zadarius Smith, Kevin Zeitler. Don't even want to try to say this guy's name. The safety, Melatif. Oh my god, I'm so bad.
Ifietu Melifonwu is what I'll. Is what
there
I
you
say.
go.
I don't know. It's again. I'm guessing. I've heard this name before. But I like guessing.
I'll say you did a good job with that one. Good job, man.
Thank you.
And then limit. You do get a cookie. The chocolate chip one or what?
I'll take snickerdoodle, please.
Don't say. Oh, don't say oatmeal raisin. I was gonna say don't say.
Joke.
Don't say it. I was like, but yeah. And then last player, Trevin Nowitzki. Yeah, that seems right. Yeah.
He's not Polish. He's definitely not Polish, but he's. Yeah, it sounds close. I know it sounds close.
Nowitzki, I don't know. Concussion, full participation yesterday. So now, steering away from the Lions, let's go into the Bears real quick. They just had their injury report come out about an hour ago. They just had practice today.
So this is a Friday one.
This is a fresh one. We kind of get to feel on who might play on Sunday, who might not. Ryan Bates is going to be out with a concussion. Right guard, not good for the Bears. That's another offensive line that is going to be out. Travis Homer, he had a hamstring injury. He had limited participation today. He is doubtful, so might be out with another running back. But we'll kind of get into in a real quick in a little bit. Another player who could play for the Bears. That will be toward the end of the list. But Gervon Dexter, knee, he was limited participant. He's going to be questionable. That'd be bad if he's out. That's another key piece to our defense. Dan, you want to take the rest of this, man?
Of course, yeah. So obviously, tight end Mercedes Lewis, he's going to get one of these rest days each week. Technically, he was a full participant. Left guard Tevin Jenkins has calf, and he is also questionable. So we're talking already a couple players that have started more than 2 games this year for the offensive line already being deemed questionable for this game. And not just that, left tackle. So the entire left side is pretty much might be different players this coming week. Braxton Jones has a concussion, but he was a full participant. He's still technically questionable because he's got to go through the stages. I don't know what stage in the concussion protocol he's in. Defensive end Darrell Taylor, we saw him take a pretty big hit this last game in his shoulder. He was a full participant, so we'd love to see him back. He was really good at pressuring the quarterback last week.
He was
with Darnold. And then Roshan Johnson. It would be nice to get Roshan back because there's our 4th down and our goal line player, right? We don't need to get Eric Kramer or DeAndre Swift these carries if he's going to be back. So with his concussion, he was a full participant. I do expect him to come back this week. It would be really nice to have him back. And then Jalen Johnson didn't make it into the injury report. It's listed here with an illness that he did not participate. I'd find it really difficult that he wouldn't play, especially with Amon-Ra being on the other side. I think he wants to get that matchup done. He wants to play that ball game, so I don't expect him to be out this game.
Yeah, we'll see it happens. You never know what illnesses and stuff like that. We'll see how long he's going to be out for. But big one that I see here is obviously there's a lot of big names that are on this list for the Bears, but Roshan Johnson being a full participant today, that'll help get Swift off the field a little bit. Get him a little rest. I know Swift. The last few weeks have been a little rough with Roshan with that concussion, but that would be a good piece to the.
It would. Definitely would.
And Darrell Taylor or Darrell Taylor as well. So, yeah. So those are the injuries looking toward the Bears Lions game on Sunday. There's a lot on both sides of the ball, but that big names on the Lions side, big names on the Bears side. Now let's steer away from that and let's go right into one of our favorite segments of the podcast we like to go into, which is called Bear Down or Bear Frown, which we like to give you guys a stat and we like to either tell you guys bear down or bear frown with them, but we're switching it up a little bit today. We're gonna switch it up, which is going to be kind of cool because last few weeks we have not been hitting well. I think
we've been pretty bad. I don't think we've hit more than 2 in a week for
good thing I'm not sports betting right now because it's kind of the same kind of way that I've been with sports betting. But so let's go. So we did go 0 for 4 last week with Bears Minnesota. We did say the Bears will score 3 or more points in the first quarter. That did not happen, it's an ugly stat that they did not do. Caleb reaches 3,000 passing yards. No, he did not. He is only 63 yards away though, so he got very close, close. Vikings to score less than 23 points. No, they scored 30, and all the receivers to combine more than 200 plus. They did not get there. It was 167. So 0 for 4. Give us the F minus or whatever you call it.
F minus. I'll take it.
It is. But this is going to be a fun one today because we're going to dive into players that are on expiring contracts with the Bears going into 2025, and we're going to kind of say bear down or bear frown if they're going to potentially return to this team next season. And obviously, you might know one of the players we'll talk about. We got some other players though. They probably didn't know that have expiring contracts. So, Daniel, I'll kick us off with the first player.
Of course. So the first one, obviously, is wide receiver Keenan Allen. And I think this is going from importantness to least important, and not necessarily in any specific order, but Keenan Allen we want to cover first because he might have the most talk. Keenan Allen is about to make $23.1 million. That would be technically his yearly extension. I do think that number would go down a little bit, judging by the season he's had. But bear down or bear frown on this player returning. What is your thought? And you could talk about it personally, how you feel, or you can talk about how you think the Bears are going to handle the situation. Whatever you think. Give us your 2 cents here.
I'm going to have to say bear frown on this one. I would love to say bear down. I would love to see Keenan Allen come back on a Bears-friendly contract, $10 to $15 million a year. That would be awesome for me. But you got to remember, Keenan Allen is a veteran right now. He is getting toward the tail end of his career. He probably wants to sulk out as much money as he can. The Bears are going to probably lowball him. And I don't think he's going to want to stay for less than $20 million a year. He might want to even try to I don't know if he'd try to get 25, but I would like to see him stay. It's cool to see that he's kind of the safety blanket for, Williams, but I think this is the reason why we draft Rome Odunze, is that we did not know what was going to happen after this year. I just think Keenan might go back to a team in California or something like that. Even might go back to the Chargers. I have no idea, but I think he might, get the most out of his money, or he probably only has like 3 years left on his career. He's going to get the most money that he can with another team. I'm going to say bear fraud on this one, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think the Bears do end up moving away from Keenan Allen. I would like to think he comes back because of the repertoire he's made with Caleb, but I still don't think it's enough. I think at the end of the day, they're going to trust another wide receiver. It's the injuries, right? And even though he hasn't been so injury prone this season, he started off the season really limping, and that caused the first 4 games for him to really be unproductive. And I think that's what started his kind of the chemistry with him and Caleb a little bit later than DJ or later than Rome. So yeah, I do think the money he's making, it's not worth it comparative to the way he's playing. So bear frown on that. Good luck to Keenan if he does end up moving on. Next player here. I remember the day we drafted him, I was really happy about it. A guy coming out of Oklahoma State. Offensive lineman Tevin Jenkins. This is his last season with the Bears. He is scheduled to make $2.66 million per season. What do you think on his ability as a left tackle to continue staying on the Bears?
I'm going bear frown on this one, man. He's too injury ridden. He gets injured a lot. I've seen him down on the field one too many. I think he's down on the field at least once a game, if I'm known correctly. The Bears have been trying to steer, especially polls have been trying to steer away from injury-ridden players, kind of like Tevin Jenkins and stuff like that. So I'm going to say bear frown on this one. I think they're going to look somewhere else for another left tackle. Yeah. If they can't find somebody, then I could say bear down. But right now, I'm going to say bear frown that Tevin Jenkins is not going to be on the team next season.
I agree. I think we move on from him. It's not that he's expensive. I think he's just injury prone, and we have to. If you're going to invest in Tevin Jenkins, you got to invest in a backup. And I don't like the idea that I think we'll find his replacement in the draft this season or through free agency. Yeah, I don't like the idea of keeping him. He's a great guy, and I really appreciate the time he spent on the Bears because he was a very exciting player to watch. He was technically Darnell Wright before Darnell Wright. He was like the stud of the left side. On to the next player here, tight end Mercedes Lewis. He's scheduled to make $2 million.
Bear frown on this one, man.
I think he played just because he wanted to beat the record for longest tenured tight end in the NFL.
He's probably going to retire. I think he's going to retire.
I think he's going to retire. Yeah.
So I'm going to say bear frown on him.
Here's probably one of the more important positions that I think.
Okay.
So linebacker Jack Sanborn, who is still making under $1 million per season. He's only making $900,000. I have to say bear down on this. I don't think he walks, but he's going to cost a good amount of money. And he's the third linebacker in a 2-linebacker set.
You're right. I'm going bear down on him too, man. I think the Bears organization likes him a lot. Seeing what we saw with last year and kind of him stepping into the role, when I believe it was Kyler Gore and then I forgot who went out, but he stepped in and did very well.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's like in right under $1 million a year. Obviously a contract extension would make him a little bit more, but he might be a little bit cheaper to stay with the Bears. He might actually just want to stay with the Bears because he likes being part of the Bears. You never know, but I'm going to go bear down on Jack Sanborn. I will.
Yeah. I'd definitely bear down on that. I think the rotations that we have for linebacker, we really miss him being not there. I mean, I think he fits in really well with the other two guys. So yeah, I'm in with him. Here's another important one. So kick returner DeAndre Carter, who makes $1 million per year. He was only signed on a 1-year deal. would you give him another deal I mean, obviously he plays wide receiver and punt returner, but mainly kick returner. I think I've been pretty happy with his play style. I don't know if there's many other people veteran-wise, like, again, someone who's played in the league a long time that isn't going to muff each punt. I do like him. I don't know if I like him for that price tag, though, and I wonder if there's just going to be a cheaper option.
I'm going to go Bear Frown on DeAndre Carter. I thought he did really well in the preseason, filling into the wide receiver shoes and stuff like that, especially week 1 and week 2 when he had to fill in for Keenan Allen. He did really well. I just think he's another player that is get injured a little too much. He's a little bit older. Injuries affect him a little bit more. I'm going to go Bear Frown on him. I do like DeAndre Carter. I just don't think the Bears are going to re-sign him. I just don't think so.
I think especially just for special teams, I think there's somebody that can fill his position quite easily. Yeah. All right, what about you, Tyler? You want to go over these next few players?
Yeah,
I want to see your position first.
Yeah, we got a few more for you guys. We'll kind of go through these ones a little bit quicker since these are like lower. I'm not saying they're not as important players, but they're players that we don't see that much. Defensive lineman Byron Coward. He's making $985,000 right now. Not a little under $1 million. I'm going to say Bear Frown on him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think he's played a lot of minutes. I think he hasn't been injured this year, and he is a team. He's a player he's playing against every team this season, so he's got a little bit of more advantage there. But I will say Bear Frown with you on this. I think there's just one other player on this list here that I would take over him at a cheaper bargain, and I think he's had a way more productive season. So unfortunately, Byron Coward, I might be out on him.
Yeah. Now this is a good one. Defensive back Josh Blackwell. I'm gonna go bear down on him, man, because I think when he needed to step into the role, he did very well. He is a hustler and he does very well. He's making less than $1 million right now. I'm gonna go bear down Josh Blackwell.
Love this player. I totally agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. I'm bearing down on this really hard because he has played with such an intensity this last few weeks, such an energy, and you can tell he's playing full games. He's playing the full hour of the entirety of the game. So he is really a stud. I think he's someone that we can kind of see in our position, especially having some injuries in the secondary area there. I think he's someone that I would love to have on the bench. I could trust him. All right, this next guy here, one of our favorites, one of the biggest flukes of the season so far this year. Every time he's been in the field, he's either gotten pushed onto his ass, or he's fumbling, or he's not calling himself to the ref. What do you think about this guy, Tyler?
Offensive lineman Doug Kramer, who's been our fullback for a little bit. Now, here's the thing. I was going to say Bear Frown on this, but where are you going to find another fullback? There's not that many fullbacks in the league. That's just the thing. I'm still going to go Bear Frown on this. I'd like to keep him. He made his stupid mistakes. But he blocks really well on the Doug Kramer plays when he needs to go block for, Swift to run into the end zone. I don't know if he's worth $1 million, but I'm going to go Bear Frown on this.
Yeah, I'm going Bear Frown. I think he was signed because he's a hometown kid. I think that's kind of the reason why they signed him, is because he's an Illinois boy, and he played pretty well in college. But I think the reason why they're putting him in the position of fullback is maybe he just doesn't have that many fits for his position, and he's really good at just running downhill.
Yeah.
But even then, if I had to choose between him or Roschon Johnson holding the ball at the 1 yard line, I'm really going with Roschon Johnson. And that's the craziest thing to have to sit here and talk about an old lineman that's making $1 million per year. And I'm not even sure if this is his rookie season. I don't know how old he is, but I'm out. I'm Bear Frown. I think it's not that he had a pretty bad season. I just think we have better position fillers, and I think he will get replaced by another backup offensive lineman. I don't think he's the one.
I agree. All right, we got two more for you guys. You got an edge rusher who had a really good preseason, Daniel Hardy. I'm going to go bear down on this guy, man. I think he is great on special teams. He is great when he needs to fill into the edge rushing role. He had a great preseason. I would go bear down on Daniel Hardy.
Yeah, I like Daniel Hardy. He's making a little bit over $900,000, so he's not technically too expensive. Such a young guy, a stud. I think he's going to be a great position player for the Bears here, and I would be very excited to see him on the team next year. So again, we're talking about backups here. We're talking about players that are going to be coming in for maybe 15 to 30 snaps, and I think he is definitely one of those players that it would be an advantage to have him on the roster. Last one here. Oh, can't hear Tyler. Can't hear Tyler. Sorry, guys. There's a small issue real quick. Tyler's mic isn't working. Of course, with the last player, he gets so excited about Daniel Hardy that his mic gets disconnected. One brief second, everyone. There's Tyler. I wonder if it's me. Is it me? No, it's not me. Headphones are charged. I have headphones on, by the way, everyone, if you're wondering. Can't hear Tyler. I'll just finish off this last one real quick. The last one is offensive lineman Larry Borum. Probably a boo for me. Yeah, probably a boo for me. Making $3 million per year. He was a pretty good pickup for us in his rookie season. He was a very underrated player for the offensive lineman. He's one of Brian Poles' first draft picks. So he was in the same season as I believe it was with Tevin Jenkins. He was a lot more of a later round pick. I'm not bringing him back. Not for $3 million, not for the position that he plays. He's definitely important, but how important has he been compared to like Matt Pryor, who we signed off of a practice squad? Matt Pryor is definitely getting a lot of good minutes, and there was a good stretch of games that he had. So $3 million, no, I'm not a fan of that. I'm not into that. So those are the few players that we had here. There's about a list of 10 players. There's a lot more players. You can check out the Bears websites for who are the players that have expiring contracts and who's restricted and who's unrestricted. We didn't go over through the idea of who's restricted and unrestricted. It's mainly just, did you like the way they played, and would you invite them to play in a Bears uniform again next season? All right, so obviously there's a little bit of a break with Tyler here, but I'm going to continue on this journey that we have here together just because there's a lot of information to get through. And Bears aren't getting any better, but hopefully if there's any ways that we could fix things, you can tell us how we can get better on this. But the next segment we have here, Tyler's in charge of the captions at the bottom side here. If you see, he's in charge of the captions. So still can't hear Tyler. It was weird. I saw his screen go black and then something with the microphone. So it might just be something with the program. But here's the next one here. The last thing here is just how many yards do players need to get before Tyler. If you have a whiteboard, you can you can get a note paper and just like start holding it up. This is gonna be quick, guys. So we're just gonna go over the last part here. So how many more yards do players need to achieve 1,000 yards in their season? DeAndre Swift only needs 179 yards rushing in these next 3 games, which is pretty simple to do, and definitely he's had somewhat of a slow season, so the expectation wasn't immediate for him to get 1,000 rushing yards. It would be cool to see, though. DJ Moore needs 242 yards receiving in the last 3 games, which is somewhat doable, and I do think he gets there because he is the wide receiver 1 on this roster, and we have a couple games here where they're just going to let Caleb sling it. And probably the most important one for me here, I would love to see Rome Odunze get 1,000 yards this season in his rookie season. That would break the record for a rookie receiving yards in Bears history. He is 376 yards away. I think that would be roughly like 120 yards per game these last 3 games, but don't think that happens. But gosh, that would be exciting. So yeah, that's how many yards players are going to need to finish off the season here. And everyone else, Keenan Allen, I think is just around 500 yards, so he is not in any category. But the schedule here, so obviously Bears have 3 games left here. This week, week 16, we're going to Detroit as a home game, and that is at 12 p.m. Central. Tyler is still over there messing with his mic. I'm seeing this every 2 minutes. He goes black and he goes. That's a 12 p.m. game. Obviously, if you want to tune into that, the Bears played pretty well against them last week, so I will definitely be tuning in. I think it's a game that I'm pretty excited about. It's one of the last home games. It's not a home game that we're playing the week after, which is week 17 in Seattle, which is a home game. Not in Seattle. Seattle's playing here. That's a 7:15 Thursday night football game, and that is the last Thursday night football game, or second to last Thursday night football game of the season. So we'll see exactly how that goes. That is the last home game. So just an idea of the last home game that the Bears will be playing is a streamed, televised. Everyone in the country is going to be watching this game on Thursday night. If you have Amazon Prime, then obviously you'll be watching it for free. So that's that game. And I'm not sure if we've gotten any dates yet on this Week 18 Green Bay game, which is an away game, which is where yours truly, Tyler, will be attending. And he will be helping. Tyler actually just got a position recently as the new head coach of the Bears. So Thomas Brown did step down, and they asked Tyler if Week 18 in Green Bay, he'd be willing to step up and try to coach this team out. Tyler's a very good offensive-minded coach. He is someone that's really good on the passing plays. If you've ever watched any of his highlights from the Bears draft day, I've taken a lot of videos of him because he is just a stud. He is a very good wide receiver, so he can definitely help out the wide receiver room just a little bit and even play if he wants. I think he's the first eligible coach to be able to be inserted into a game. So we'll see how Tyler goes. He's going to be in Week 18 in Green Bay. Wish him luck, everyone. We don't have any facts on when that'd be done yet or what time the game is at yet, but that's that. So we're going to wrap it up shortly here, just because obviously Tyler is silent. Tyler's going to be the silent treatment now. See what you guys have done. Tyler said that he is not going to unmute his mic until the Bears win a game. So he is going to stay silent for the next 3 years. Okay, so we're going to go over some quick Bears fun facts here. Bears are 5th in the NFL in turnovers with 10. I believe I mentioned that a couple weeks ago, but it's still just important to see their top 5. Bears are ranked 6th in special team stats, surprisingly, I'd say, judging that we've had a couple blocked kicks and blocked punts here and there. But being ranked 6th is actually pretty awesome. So that shows that the special teams, whatever is happening there with coaching, is probably going to stick around for next year. Rome Odunze's 624 receiving yards through 14 games is the most by a Bears rookie since Willie Gault, with 782 yards in 1983. So I don't know how many yards he's going to need to break that record, but obviously he's only 300 yards shy of breaking 1,000, which we've seen him have a couple 100-yard games. So I'm hoping that could help him out here. All right, so that's all the fun facts we have here. I also just wanted to give a little bit of a shout out, and this isn't necessarily part of the program, so we're talking a lot about Bulls or Bears here, but we wanted to give a shout out to the Bulls here, and I'm just going to talk about their quick score because Tyler was very excited about it. Me and him were texting about how good the game went yesterday. Bulls beat Boston in Boston, 117-108. It was a game where Joe Mazzulla had to get carried off the court because he was very angry at the officiating at the end of the game. But the Bulls were somewhat tied at the second quarter, but we had an amazing fourth quarter, putting up 35 points in the fourth quarter here compared to the 22 points by Boston, and it was just an incredible game. Zach LaVine with 35. Zach LaVine with 36. That is the most by a shooting guard and with the highest percentage shooting this season for anybody that's playing against Boston in Boston. But here's the best stat, I would say. Shout out specifically to Ayo Dosunmu, Chicago native, one of our favorites, someone that we grew up watching, someone that we grew up playing next to in the same courts. Who, like, you never know. We all grew up in the same neighborhoods. Ayo Dosunmu had the best field goal percentage by any guard against the Celtics in NBA history. After last night's road win in Boston, Ayo has a 59% career field goal percentage against Boston. That is the best, again, in NBA history by any guard ever. That's a huge shout out to Ayo there. Incredible game, and he's been playing out of his mind this year. Again, really happy we gave him that deal 2 seasons ago. He is currently on a 3-year deal. I believe it's worth $28 million. So shout out to Bulls here, but we did talk about it a little bit before the game. And so Tyler's going to go ahead and he just texted me he's going to rejoin. So we'll give him one quick second before we shout out to anybody else or if we leave this podcast for you guys. So don't worry, you'll get to hear Tyler's voice one more time. Tyler can't hear Tyler. Unfortunately, cannot hear Tyler. But that's something we'll have to figure out because we haven't had that issue yet. And I'm pretty surprised. We haven't heard that issue yet. But Tyler. So yeah, we're going to let Tyler try one more time here. Let's see. Let him cook. Is he coming? But yeah, Tyler and I were speaking before the podcast today on what kind of ideas we're going to have once the Bears season is over. We're going to talk about the Bears for these next 3 games and give you all the updates we can. We're going to finish off the Bears podcast with how Caleb Williams' projected stats comparative to the stats he actually did get. And we're going to go over some draft process and tell you what kind of prospects we're looking at with the number 9 pick and how excited we would be for those prospects to join the Bears. And after that moment, once we're done with the Bears, we'll log off with Bears football and we will start the UC chat, which is a new part of our program here at DNT in the 773. There's Tyler. Can't hear him.
No. Hello.
Oh, I hear him. We hear him.
It's off my webcam now.
What do you think was the issue?
I have no idea, man.
It must have been like microphone, right?
Something dropped out in the middle. Like I think my microphone dropped out. I'm gonna look into it and stuff like that. But so the audio is coming off of my webcam right now. But sorry about that, man. I didn't want to leave and completely get the live stream cut out. I had to Google and all that shit. So
all good. I was just talking about the idea of we have a few weeks left of Bears, and after we're done with Bears football, we're going to start a new program here on DNT in the 773 called UC Chat. Yeah. We're gonna think of what it is. It's mainly just United Center sports here. We're gonna talk about the teams that play the United Center. We're gonna cover more Bulls because we love the Bears and we love the Bulls and we love the Hawks, but we really want to push back into basketball. Basketball and football were the main two sports that we talked about a lot when we first started this podcast. So we didn't forget about you Bulls. We just needed to how important this season was for Chicago, even with 8-game losing streaks. It was important for us to cover that team each week, and we don't want to make this a 2-hour podcast. So we're gonna split it up a little bit, and we promise in the future we're gonna get a little bit better with the collision between two teams playing and a week being more than just one football game. Because again, Bulls play 3 times each week comparative to one Bears game. So a lot more information to cover. But that's what we'll end up doing, and that's going to help us out a little bit, not knowing that it's the end of the year. We're facing the end of the year. Next year's going to have new challenges, but also new aspirations, and we'll be very excited to cover more Bulls and Hawks sports.
Yeah, kind of like Dan was just getting into. We got 3 more weeks of Bears. We'll kind of get that wrapped up. We can talk about Bears. We'll talk about NFL playoffs too a little bit. We'll kind of touch on that, but Bulls is kind of doing very well right now, and the Hawks are we'll get into our UC chat, which is going to be a lot of fun. But super excited about that. That'll be a lot of fun. We'll try to catch you guys at least once a week like we do now. And yeah, it's been I'm sorry I dropped out in the middle of that.
That's okay. That's okay. Happened. I'm really happy that it worked for you though, because I would have been worried for our next podcast if we had the same issue. So
I'm gonna test out my microphone stuff, see if something's got screwed up with my microphone or something with my computer. But it just completely I got a black screen and then it said my microphone was not connected anymore. So I'll look into it. But
that's Peter, the way the tech works.
It did. Technology, man. And Peter did say, thanks for tuning in, Peter. He did say, I'd love to get some draft-centric content in the offseason from some free agent. But yeah, we're talking a little bit about free agency and, a little bit in this podcast with Bear Down, Bear Frown. We talked about that a little bit with some of the players, but we'll get into, some mock drafts as well. Like you just said right here, we'll get into some mock drafts. Once it gets a little more solidified toward the end of the year where everybody's kind of going to be sitting at, that we'll find out 3 weeks from now. But it looks like the Bears will sit right around number 9. We'll talk about players around there. I've been seeing Bears potentially getting Will Johnson from Michigan, the cornerback. If Will Campbell falls to us, that'll be another player that keeping our eyes on to watch. But it'll be exciting. It will.
Yeah, I'd be really excited about doing that. Going over some free agency players, just kind of getting you the 3 best position players at each team. That's a restricted or unrestricted free agent. See what kind of fit works for the Bears here. So I would love to do that.
That'd be awesome, man. I appreciate you tuning or hanging with me while I was trying to get my microphone fixed.
I love hanging with you, buddy.
Appreciate it, man.
For those of you who don't know, Tyler's one of my closest friends, so why would I leave?
Know each other since first grade, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Hell yeah.
And it's an absolute pleasure. We unfortunately, we haven't been doing this since first grade. We've only been doing this since college, but hopefully we can get a few more good years of this in there.
6th grade, man. We did the
we have. Oh my gosh, we have been doing it.
Yeah, so back at Wiley and stuff. Yeah, dude. That was
for those of you who don't know, we used to do the news channel every Friday at our elementary school. And if you want to know the topic or not, we were rappers. We rapped
the
news
every Sunday. every Friday. It was kind of funny. It was
so me and Tyler used to have the TV presence. We're used to it.
Yeah. And then we had our podcast back in DePaul when we both went there and stuff, and we wanted to ramp this podcast back up, and we love bringing you the podcasts and stuff like that.
But, of course.
Yeah, we'll get into Bulls and Hawks in a few weeks, and then we're obviously bringing you the Bears in the next 3 weeks once those games wrap up and stuff like that. I'll get my mic all situated and sorted out, but we appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll figure out when we're going to get to you guys next week with this podcast. Just because of Christmas, in the middle of the week on Wednesday, maybe we'll try to do it on Friday again, just because, a little bit of a lighter week toward the end of the week and stuff like that. But we'll get that all situated for you guys, and we'll figure that out. So
yeah,
cool.
Appreciate you guys listening.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Talk to you next week.
Thank you for tuning into D&T and the 773. Have a great weekend. Have a great Christmas, and we'll see you guys later.
Yeah, and we'll do mock drafts. We saw that.
We will. We'll get those mock drafts. All right. See you guys. Take care. What the fuck was that? What the
dude? That hasn't happened to us.